killed it.
For once.
So yeah. Say something.
It's always the same. What did you have for breakfast?
What did I have for breakfast?
It's a long
I
time
skipped
ago.
breakfast today.
Ooh.
And had a lunch. It was a really weird sandwich. It was like a tuna beef. I had some fried mushrooms on there.
Hello and welcome to Word Up Podcast. I'm Evie.
And I'm Webster.
And today we are here with Sass.
Hello. Hello, everyone. This is Sass.
So happy to have you here. Thank you for coming all the way from Maastricht.
Always good to come here in Amsterdam. It's like my second home.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, it's hard to box me right now because I've been doing a lot of things. But if there are three things that come to mind, I would say artist, advocate, and teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first two, that's what I do when I'm not. The last one, teacher, is what I do when I'm not Batman. So, so the other two is like what I do on.
Right.
What
on
type
the
of
side.
art do you do exactly?
I actually consider myself a writer.
Right.
And then and for about a year now, I've been exploring DJing. So I've been playing in squats in Maastricht.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
What kind of music do you play?
Usually it's techno. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I would not have imagined you as a techno kind of person.
Why?
just from meeting you.
Why?
I don't know. I just like when I think of techno, I just think super hardcore ravers. And maybe you are that
But
person.
what do I look like?
You look like a very nice, polite lady.
Oh my God. do I exude that aura?
I don't know. Tell us. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to be corrected.
No, I'm not usually that. if I exude that, I'm not really sure how I come off to appear to others. So,
Right.
yeah.
And, well, I know you as an artist.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your art and what inspires you?
Well, I've been writing poetry for quite a while now, and a lot of things inspire me. But usually they are mostly about, in the themes of falling in love, a bit of eroticism, and a bit of spirituality on the side. I've been reading a lot of mystical poets, so I'm really inspired by the way they write because it's always so erotic. Mm-hmm. And so it just burns your soul while you read it. Of course, my experience as well. My everyday experience. I usually write when I have this overwhelming emotion that I'm feeling, and usually writing is one of my outlets. And then last year I discovered DJing became an outlet for releasing that bubbling emotion inside of me. So yeah. Because sometimes, emotions can be so unbearable.
Yeah.
So you need an outlet in order to make it more bearable.
Right. And do you find that since you DJ, do you write less or?
No, actually, it kind of, cross-pollinated each other.
Oh, nice.
Right. Like I usually construct my DJ set following a narrative. So I really prepare a lot. Like I do my transition just like how will I do a poem. And then the music helps me write better because it improves my my sense of melody, sense of rhythm. So they're cross-pollinating each other.
Right. Wow. It's kind of like a storytelling throughout.
Yeah, I think if I would really summarize what I've been doing, it's really about storytelling. Because even in my advocacy, that's really my medium, storytelling. Even when I teach,
Right.
it's really about storytelling, and even when I write a poem. So a lot of my poem really are like stories being told. So the narrative structure is really present in whatever I'm doing. So yeah, so maybe I'm just a storyteller.
And is it fictional stories or experience based or?
Well, most of it's always experience based. So of course they are fictionalized, right?
Yeah.
You let your imagination run wild. That you imagine how things could be, right? If things took a different turn, and then you imagine how it would be, right.
And where are you sourcing your inspiration from? I know you said you usually have something that you want to get off your chest. Does it have to be something negative, or do you get positive stories out that you want to share as well?
I usually write more when I feel an overwhelming positive emotion.
Okay, right.
Or when I process already the negative emotion that I'm feeling, and then when I'm already at peace with it, and then that's the time that I start to write. Because I have been through a lot in my life, so I have a lot of materials to choose from. And I think I'm just like a kind of person who like to experience life a lot. So I have been through a lot as well. And that kind of enriched whatever I'm actually doing, not just when I'm writing or when I'm DJing, even when I'm teaching. Like you need to make these things more human for them, for the students to learn better. And usually I use my own experience in order to convey a better message for them.
Wow.
For our audience who doesn't know you, can you tell us a bit about yourself? I feel like we've jumped a step. And we don't know your story yet. How did you get to be here in the Netherlands? And how did you get to teaching and doing art and sharing your stories?
Well, I'm Sass, and I'm originally from Manila, Philippines. I was born in Manila, but I always say that if I was born in Manila, I got born free in Amsterdam. I'm actually a trans woman. I'm a transgender Filipino woman, and it was actually here in Amsterdam that I had my operation done. So it was just like being reborn in Amsterdam. That's why I always feel so alive whenever I come here in Amsterdam, because it's just like, you felt like, okay, this is actually where I started to live fully. Right. And I've been an activist doing advocacy work on transgender rights in the Philippines since I was 19. And I'm already 37. Actually, not yet 19. When I was 18. So it was like right now.
Wow. Yeah.
1 year earlier. And I started doing that after I committed suicide. So I attempted suicide when after graduating high school. It was also the time that I came out to my mother, and I was like, and then she didn't understand it, right? So it was a mixture of fear, ignorance, etc., all bottled up into this human being. And then she related to me through that. So she rejected me, and she kind of gave me an ultimatum that either you stay in my house, I'm going to pay for your education, but you have to follow what I would like you to be, and that is that you have to live like a man, and then you just do whatever you want to do if you're already rich or whatever, or you do whatever you want to do, but you have to leave the house. And I just graduated from high school during that time, so I was just like kind of confused, etc. And I just broke up with my ex-boyfriend, my first boyfriend, and then everything was just like, oh my God, my world is falling down. And then I attempted suicide by hanging. It was December 2000. And then I was like so prepared to die. I prepared the song list that I would like to be played in my funeral, what I wanted to wear in my funeral. It was just like really, I'm prepared. I called a friend of mine, and I just told him that I'm gone. Like, this is the last time that we're gonna talk to each other, etc. And then while I was like hanging, and I was already feeling like my body going numb. My ears were like popping.
Right.
Like I could already hear the sound of a flat lifeline. And then it was just like something inside of me just like struggled to live. And then, of course, I succeeded. And then when I came down from being hanged, it was just like some sort of realization, like I'm sure there are other people like me going through the same thing, so why don't I just use my life for this? Because before that, I was like already interested in trans issues. So in high school, I studied an exclusive school for boys, so Catholic school for boys, and then when I had a boyfriend, that became a scandal because he was just so open. He was just like, I'm not ashamed. I think them being Buddhist helped a lot. So they were just like, okay, we're not under your doctrine, we're Buddhist. So and then that's the time that I started dealing with this, and he was also supportive. He bought me a book about it that we saw from a music store in the Philippines. And then, so I had already some sort of knowledge about to go about it. And then from that moment, when I had that realization after I attempted suicide, I just like, went full throttle. Like I left my family and then lived for some time in public park. I met a lot of people along the way, and it's just so amazingly that I kept meeting people that just lead me to the one step to the next step. So yeah, and then I co-founded the pioneer transgender rights advocacy group in the Philippines. It's called the Society of Transsexual Women of the Philippines. There was no organization before, and then so I co-founded it, and then it's just one thing just led to another. And my studies was of course put in the back burner, and but I always wanted to live in the Netherlands. I always wanted to live in Europe. Like if there's anywhere I would like to live, it's in Europe and Netherlands. And then I met my ex in Copenhagen during a conference. Right, he was like visiting Copenhagen, and he's Dutch. And then it's just like, okay, maybe this is a sign. And then I started living here in 2011. So I went back to school, and then after graduating, I applied for a job in Maastricht University and became a teacher.
Okay, that's quite a journey.
That is an amazing
of course, there are a lot of things that happen in between, but
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
That is an incredible story.
Yeah, I'm quite amazed of what I've been through as well, right? Sometimes you surprise yourself that, oh my God, I've been through so much shit, and you're still like standing.
And it's amazing to hear you speak about it so clearly and honestly. Was it always that easy to speak about that?
I think one thing that I never find it hard to speak about my experience. I think what I find it hard to speak about was just like some of the traumatic. Only one traumatic experience that I've gone through, that it took me a while to actually vocalize it, and it was actually my first boyfriend who actually learned about that, and I was just like breaking. I think his love actually made it possible for me to break open and to start accepting what happened and to heal from it. So yeah, that's why I always believe in the power of love. So I think it's because I consider myself as a very reflective person, so that's why I don't really I don't find it hard to talk about these things.
Yeah, it sounds like your story to me. It's kind of like the phoenix being reborn. You have to be broken.
That's my tattoo. Wow. I had it tattooed on my arm.
I didn't know that.
Right? So, yeah.
Wow. Because, it's kind of like, is this also somewhere where your poetry comes in that? Like, through that? Also the story of... Because I remember when you sent me the concept of one of the performances, it was about... Nirvana and like two. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it was originally my concept for Word Up
outspoken
event in Folks Hotel. It was actually about being born with two bodies.
Yeah.
Because usually when we speak about the trans experience or the the classical transsexual experience, it's about being born in the wrong body, or being trapped in the wrong body, and that trope actually do not speak to me, and I feel that very disempowering, because for me, your body is yourself, right? If you say that in your brain you are this, your brain is part of your body. Right, and then as I learn more about the transsexual condition, and then one of the theories that our brain actually has its own body map, right, and it develops differently from our own body, and then it just so happened that some people's body map do not correspond to their physical or external body, and then that actually inspired me to think, okay, I was actually born with two bodies. Right. And these two bodies felt disconnected with each other. So I'm not trapped. I just happened to be born with two bodies. Right. So it was a very empowering notion for me of, not thinking of myself as wrong. I don't want to think of my body as wrong. It's just like what it is. Right. And yeah, that's the entire idea behind the concept of the two bodies.
Wow.
Do you think recent social movements have made it easier for trans people to just be and to come out and to live as they are? Or is that something that's, I don't know, how do you feel about it?
Well, in the Philippines, we've always, there was always this space of living openly. I think but you are relegated into a certain, layer of society. In the West, definitely people coming out and speaking out made it possible for a lot of trans people to come out. But I think one thing that's really missing is that, understanding trans people as everyday people, right? So whenever, and that's what I also learned throughout the years when I was engaging in advocacy, that I think it's even in some way a shortcoming of the advocacy itself, right? Like, for example, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is like a really advanced law. However, in everyday experience, the people their minds are still like as if this development didn't happen. So I was just like, so why is there a discrepancy? I think it's because, what's happening on top was change, but how people imagine life has not changed, right? So that's why this kind of representation is necessary, because if you do not change, how we imagine and see things, then how can everyday life would follow through?
Yeah, because you can change laws, but you can't make people think a certain way.
Exactly,
right?
you cannot legislate people to imagine life, right? So you can sue them, etc. But if what they're seeing in, let's say, on television, in movies, is just this, like those are the primary medium of representation, then no change would happen.
And when you were going through your process, did you have someone to inspire you or to help you? Did you have someone that you were looking up to, or you had to go through that just by trial and error and just?
Well, I had because it's already part of Filipino culture to be close, right? So we were kind of like herd culture. So back in my school, the older batch, they were already like telling me when I was just like 12, when you turn 13, you should take hormones already, so that you would arrest the masculine, you wouldn't be masculine, etc. So they kind of taught me, which hormones to take, because in the Philippines back at the time, you can buy it over the counter.
Wow.
Without prescription. So it was so easy to get it. So the pitfall is that you don't have medical supervision, right? So I started like at 13, and then it just but I fully like socially I started transition like really young. I never really lived my life like as a boy, even though I was like studying in an exclusive school for boys. I was just like, okay, I'm just like a girl in an exclusive school for boys, right? So that's why I didn't have that identity crisis that they always portray on television. Like one day that they woke up like, oh, am I a boy or a girl? Never happened to me. But the full medical, physical transition, it happened here in the Netherlands because it's covered by the national healthcare system.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have advice for people who are in your situation or who are thinking or feeling lost or cannot connect the body with the mind or feeling born in more bodies than one?
I think my first advice is not to hate yourself, right? It's because if you hate yourself, I think that's the beginning of every negative thing that would happen to you, right? Because at the end of the day, you will be with yourself, right? So as much as possible, appreciate yourself, appreciate your body. You know, you do have two hands. Your body is not just centered in your genitalia, right?
Of course.
You have two hands, you have two eyes, you have nose, you have like lips, you have all these amazing things that that are part of you, right? Your body is a product of billions of years of evolution, right? That you hate it just for one simple thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So I think that's my number one advice, that to find a way to be grateful, right? To what they say, like count your blessings,
Yeah.
right? No matter how simple it is, because it will help you get through life.
So I hear you have a poem to read for us.
Oh yes, I do have one. So I actually wrote this poem very recently. It's based on the very overwhelming experience that I had earlier this year. The title of the piece is "May Your Heart Be Lighter Than a Feather." He was a star whose beauty I only admired from a distance. But the fates pulled a thread, stitching closer the fabric of space-time between us. And we found ourselves dancing together in the great darkness of the school of life. It was the first time I heard him talk of the stuff that makes him smile, and I could feel the beats of his heart as he sprinkled our conversation with what gave his life purpose. If before he was a star, that night he was a fireplace in a cozy smoke-filled room, crackling with so much joy as we spoke about the meaning etched on our bodies. As he spoke of our shared interests, I observed as his skin glowed with the pinkness of a sunset in The Hague that once awed me. His eyes were a never-ending well of aliveness. I wish he could see what I saw. Even when he was just talking about tequila, traffic, and tea, he was dazzling. Because of all this wonder, I must be turning so moist that I turn into an oasis, attracting lots of thirsty creatures. But I wasn't interested to be their watering hole, as I was fully absorbed by his state of intense aliveness. I was a sea of swelling waves reflecting his incandescence. A bonfire lit as I felt the heat of his breath licking my skin to life. When he started kissing me, gravity went wild. Then rain. His heart was light as starlight, but now it was heavy as a dead cold fish, as he wrapped himself of guilt for being simply alive. What was once a star collapsed into a black hole, shredding everything in its path. My mind wanted me to be angry, but my heart resisted. To be someone's object of desire is also to be someone's space of freedom. When you awake someone to their flesh, you set them free, it said. You are object, now be that space, it commanded. The mythology inscribed on his body told a story of what happens after we die. Our hearts will be weighed against a feather. When the heart is heavier, one cannot live in the afterlife. A heart frozen by regrets, weighed down by denying what keeps life fresh, flowing, flourishing, will always be heavier than a feather. For anything as dead as a feather will always be heavier than a heart that's alive, unbounded, undaunted, a heart that beats unapologetic yes to life, its flesh, its soul, its chaos, its dance.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much.
Can you tell us about the poem, how you came up with it? What's the story behind it?
It was, of course, based upon a very supposed to be a romantic moment, right? It's I saw this guy who I knew from my past, like a decade ago, and then it was the first time that we went out, and we connected a lot, and more than that we both expected to, and it's just the wrong time, right? He is in a relationship, so it was like, oh my God, why am I in this situation?
Yeah.
So that experience became it was really an overwhelm. It's still very fresh right now, so I'm kind of stuttering talking about it. But I had to process what happened, right? Because it felt like you are being put in a situation that you are already exploding with so much passion, and then suddenly you felt as if a bucket of ice got thrown into you, right? So it just died suddenly. So I was like processing what happened, but he helped me process it, right? He was a real gentleman, really, really nice guy. But he's just, any human being, right? I think as you grow older, we become more understanding of human frailty, right?
Yeah,
I was just like, I was understanding. I was like understanding what's going on. And I just like told him that do not overthink it. Shit happens. And of course, I just told him that I hope that I wasn't put in the situation, but it already happened. So he helped me process it, and while I was processing it, I got inspired to write. A lot of things that's there, as I told you earlier, I was like, really interested in forming a narrative. So it's really about what happened all throughout the night, right? And the symbolism there are things that we talked about. And when I was like connecting the dots of what happened, I was like, it was actually a very poetic experience. So I might as well write something about it. So yeah.
That's the amazing thing about being an artist, is you can take experiences like those, whether it's positive or negative, and turn it into something that we can also take part in.
Yeah, I think that's part of the artist's temperament, that you find the exquisiteness in everything, right? Pain, joy, what have you, right? And then you convert it into something beautiful, right? So I think that's something that I develop all throughout the years. Like when I'm experienced, that's why I think I do, when I talk about something in the past, no matter how dark they are, I do not talk about it as if I were depressed, right? My psychologist, the psychologist who actually attended, who actually guided me all throughout the process of physical transition, was like, while I was talking about a very traumatic incident in my life, she was just like, You look so well adjusted that you just talk about it as if like, you know, it was nothing, but it's really, really heavy. I was just like, well, it's just like something that I already processed, right? Maybe wrote several poems about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing ability to be able to go through an experience, step back from that experience, and then look at it with kind of fresh eyes. And I think that's something that lots of people need to do, whether you went through a traumatic experience or not.
Because I consider myself a Buddhist, especially Zen Buddhist. So I do a lot of reflective exercise, meditation, etc. So that kind of helped me, like you know, observe myself from a distance. And then, and that kind of helped me actually go through a lot of things.
And it's kind of also like you dissociate with yourself without that person. You're someone new because you went through that, and then you became better, stronger, more creative. I don't know, like it's new things that you put on yourself, right? It's
I think more just more alive.
Yeah.
Right. It just because pain makes you feel that you are alive.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
it really does.
So I think it just made me really more alive. That's why when I'm experiencing pain, I do not drown it. I do not drink to drown it. I do not like do drugs or let it stray. I really experience it, like really experience it fully, like what it is, how heavy it is.
Yeah.
And then so that I would have a more peaceful relationship, let's say, with my own pain.
Yeah.
Like even when I had the surgery, I never really had painkillers.
Wow.
My painkiller was just like ibuprofen. Can you imagine a very
Wow.
a very major and then because I really wanna experience, you know, the pain, right? And go through with it, because it will pass, right? Either I die with it or you know, I came out stronger out of it. So I really want to experience the pain fully. So that's why I always my friends notice, like when I cry, I really cry, and then they're oh my God, you're like falling, like let me experience this. If I'm gonna be like distraught, I'm gonna be distraught.
Right. It's a very conscious way to let yourself go through that, because pain or any emotions is like waves, but it's still the same water, right? Like it's still part of the construct.
Exactly, because I think a lot of us have this very negative and antagonistic relationship with pain, right? And that makes it more painful.
Yeah, but it's also like society does not really celebrate pain in that way, because we are all very hedonistically minded in a way, in many ways, right?
We always think about pleasure, right? Like what attracted me to techno are those DJs who have a really good dance philosophy, that they are not there to make the dance floor as a space of escape, but for people to confront their reality. So a lot of those are the DJs that inspired me, and actually inspired me to construct my set according to that. That, you know, it's not about making you escape reality, but you confront it and have a catharsis because you have fully engaged with your reality.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today, how I spend so much of my time trying to block out things, you know. If I'm alone and I'm cooking, I'll put on a podcast so I don't have to be alone with my thoughts, you know. Or if I'm in pain, I'll take a painkiller. Do you think people today are too sensitive to pain, and that we do need to take a page from your book, effectively, and feel more of what life throws us and able to process it? Or is it just, you know, is it like a symptom of the modern age where you have all these tools around to quickly get rid of any discomfort?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are being sensitized to pain, right? They're being they're being pampered, and that actually weakens them more, right? I don't know if you know Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
This really controversial guy.
I
just found out recently that he was actually suffering from clinical depression, and then he got addicted to the antidepressant. So I was just like thinking, can you imagine this guy who exudes himself as being strong, etc., is actually going through a really, really difficult phase in his life that he was struggling for a long time. And I just realized that, and then you are telling us to be strong? And then you cannot show to us how we can be strong? Because you are drowning your own pain. So I was like thinking, we need to be more authentic about what we are saying, right? What we are putting out into the world. We cannot just say that, okay, life is happy, etc. And then at the same time, we do not believe the message because we do not live the message. I think that's a very important thing. So yeah, I think people will need to feel more, right? They say that the heart is also located in your brain. Like the heart and the mind must be in sync, and you are a sentient being, right? You must feel something, right? Otherwise you already died at this age, and you just get buried when you're already physically dead.
Yeah.
So you need to feel more and appreciate more life itself, and understand that life is really shit. And it's really shit. Like I know a lot of people who are in a good situation, and then when I became intimate with them and then see how they live, I was like, you're as shitty as everyone else. And then so it's just like, one of my favorite authors is Joseph Campbell, and one of the things that he said was like, participate joyfully in the sorrows of this world. So even when you are going through a rough patch, participate joyfully with it, and realize that I think sense of humor would really help us a lot in going through things. And that's why I made this ritual that the first thing that I do upon waking up is watch a stand-up comedy, so that
Nice.
I begin my day laughing hysterically, that whatever shitty thing that goes through my day, I was like already like happy from the start, right? So I was just like, okay, I can handle this.
That's a great idea. It's,
Yeah, I like it. Beats going for a jog anyway. Speaking of your processes, can you tell us about some of the other things that you do in order to, I guess, prepare yourself for the difficulties of life, as you mentioned? Like, what grounds you outside of your art and comedy?
Outside of art and comedy. I think it's just like about, because I'm an introvert person, really introvert, like you. Oh my God, he's not agreeing. He's not agreeing.
I'm not getting that vibe from you right now. I would say I'm introverted.
No, I'm really an introvert person, and I love spending time alone. I can talk in front of a huge crowd, but after that, when people interact with me, especially not in an intimate setup, I really get tired. Really get tired. Like, oh my God, I need
you
more
go
time.
back into your shell.
Yes, exactly. And a habit that I formed when I was a kid, because I live in a very dysfunctional family. Like, if there's more dysfunctional family than my family, I'm gonna give you an award or something like that. So how I survive it is through what I call looking through the different windows. Like I use my books, I watch films, and I experience life, and then made me imagine that another life is possible. So that's been part of my process, like really opening and experiencing life in different perspectives, and that helps me as well to make my own life more bearable, because I know that things can be different, right? So you just need to be a little patient.
And yeah, what you're saying is just shift the perspective sometimes, because maybe you're looking at it in the wrong way, or there is no wrong way.
Yeah, there are different ways of looking, at something.
No, I really like
something.
that metaphor about the windows and kind of creating a different perspective all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Just being more aware about possibility.
Yeah.
That's that's what I've been. I think I'm kind of lucky as well, right? Because I grew up with the internet. My God. The first time that there was an internet in the Philippines. So because I consider myself as really a hungry person. I'm hungry for knowledge, etc. And then I just kept on researching, and then I was like, oh my God, another life is possible, right? So that kind of helped me, kind of helped me imagine and kind of live it as well, right? Because my imagination is so wild that I think that I'm already living what I'm imagining in some way.
Yeah, because you have to embody your dreams before they happen, right? Like
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. Embody your dreams.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are you excited about in the future?
I'm excited to moving here in the Netherlands. In Amsterdam. Yeah, because I currently live in Maastricht, and Maastricht is so pretty, beautiful, but boring. And because I consider Amsterdam as my home, right? I was born free in Amsterdam, and my contract ends in August next year. So I'm actually preparing for that. So. Yeah, so that's what I'm excited right now. That's the most immediate future.
The world is your oyster.
Yes, and I actually a lot of projects in my head right now that I would like to actualize. I like to write. I'm actually in the process of writing already a lot of stories that feature trans characters because I'm thinking, okay, if there are not enough good representation, why not do something, right? So I'm now actually have different storylines that I'm working on right now. So that's what I'm excited of how they would turn out.
Yeah, we are on the edges of our seats.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Where fans and people who are curious about you can find more information about you?
Well, I do have my own SoundCloud. So SoundCloud, my SoundCloud is Sass, that's SASS 0527. And of course, my own, my Facebook, it's just Sass Rogando Sasot. So that's SASSROGANDO It's in my SoundCloud. The link is in my SoundCloud anyway. That's the easiest one. So and another thing that I'm working on right now is I'm developing this series of DJ sets inspired by different things that I encountered in my trans advocacy. So they're celebrating triumphs, struggles of trans people in different cultures. And I'm so happy that it's been reposted by Female Pressure. I'm happy about what's going on with my my quote unquote DJing project.
Nice.
So yeah,
it's popping.
Yeah, I can say that.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. It's been really, really wonderful.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
And for our listeners listening at home, you know where to find us at www.wordupodcast.com, where you'll find past episodes as well as information about our guests. Thank you. Bye.
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 I forgot what I have to say all the time.
You forgot. That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
The pressure.